Welcome to the AI for Career Success podcast by Curt Robbins. We're experts at AI coaching and helping professionals like you and your employees upskill in AI. Don't get left behind. Hire us today. Imagine opening your company's monthly credit card statement and, staring at a $500 million charge for software you didn't even realize was actively running in the background.
Yeah, the shift in the corporate atmosphere is completely undeniable. I mean, we have officially transitioned from the honeymoon phase of relentless, unmonitored AI experimentation right into an era of sheer panic over runaway operational costs.
Which brings us to the core of our analysis today. We are looking at a brilliant piece of reporting by Rebecca Bellin, published in TechCrunch. The article is titled, "The Token Bill Comes Due. Inside the Industry Scramble to Manage AI's Runaway Costs."
Our mission for this podcast is to really look under the hood of these exploding budgets. We need to understand the mechanics of why AI spending is spontaneously combusting across the tech sector, examine the murky reality of AI-driven productivity, and explore the entirely new industry springing up to get these costs under control.
Exactly. So by the end of this, you should have a solid framework for managing your own AI investments without walking into a financial trap. Let's start by looking at the sheer scale of the financial damage Rebecca Bellin reported, because the numbers are genuinely difficult to process.
They really are. Just look at Uber. According to Bellin's reporting, Uber blew through their entire 2026 AI coding budget by April.
April. That is insane. And Microsoft, the company practically driving the AI revolution, actually had to revoke Claude Code licenses from its own developers just months after enabling them.
Yeah, and Rebecca Bellin also mentioned a Priceline employee who noted that a routine contract renewal for an AI coding tool called Cursor, it suddenly jumped 4 to 5 times in price.
Wait, 4 to 5 times?
No.
Out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere. But then there is the ultimate nightmare scenario, she reported. An unnamed company got hit with a $500 million bill from Anthropic's Claude.
Just because they forgot to set usage limits, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
$500 million over a missed setting. The shockwaves that kind of invoice sends through a finance department would be cataclysmic. It literally forces a complete halt to operations.
Wow. But I have to push back on this a little bit. I mean, I don't buy that this is just accidental chaos. We're talking about companies like Microsoft and Uber. They have literal armies of corporate accountants and sophisticated procurement software. How is it physically possible for them to lose track of $500 million?
Well, it happens because the fundamental mechanics of how you pay for AI are entirely different from traditional software.
Like the old seat-based billing.
Right. For the last 2 decades, corporate IT operated on seat-based billing. You have 100 employees, you buy 100 licenses from Microsoft Word, and your cost is locked in for the year. But enterprise AI doesn't bill by the seat, it bills by the token, which is essentially a fraction of a word. You're charged for every single micro-interaction, every input, and every output.
So it's like hiring a taxi and paying by the mile. But the driver is a robot that decides to drive from New York to Los Angeles in circles, just to make sure it found the most optimal route. You're paying for every single inch it travels while it thinks, whether you asked it to or not.
That is a perfect analogy. And compound that with the go fast mandate from leadership. In late 2025 and early 2026, CEOs everywhere panicked about falling behind. They ordered their engineering teams to integrate the smartest, most powerful AI models into everything. Costs were a totally secondary concern.
Right. And Chris Reed, who runs telecom and technology expense management at Priceline, he was quoted in Rebecca Bellin's piece comparing the vendor strategy to an addiction epidemic.
Yeah, he called it a crack cocaine epidemic. Vendors offered incredibly cheap trials, got integrated into the core workflow of these developers, and once the companies were entirely beholden to the tools, they jacked up the prices.
You literally can't rip the tool out without stopping your production line.
Exactly. Which is why Alexander Imberikos, the head of enterprise at OpenAI, told Rebecca Bellin that the conversation in Silicon Valley has completely flipped. Just a few months ago, his enterprise customers only cared about capability. They just wanted to know what the model could do.
And now?
Now, those capability conversations have vanished. The only thing CIOs want to talk about is how they can audit and throttle this spend.
Okay, so we know the bills are massive, but surely these companies are tracking their return on investment. If a company is bleeding cash, the assumption is that they must be getting supernatural results. Is an engineer burning thousands of dollars actually delivering thousands of dollars worth of value?
That is the multi-million-dollar question, and it brings us right to the productivity paradox. The runaway costs aren't just coming from humans typing questions into a chat box. The massive spike is coming from a new category of software called agentic tools.
And Rebecca Bellin's reporting points to models like Claude Opus 4.5, GPT 5.1, and Gemini 3 Pro as the main culprits multiplying this consumption, right?
Yes.
Wait, before we go further, when we say an agentic tool is burning tokens, what does that actually look like? Are we talking about a chatbot going rogue?
Not rogue, but unlike a normal chatbot where you ask a question, get one answer, and the billing stops, an agentic tool is given a broad, complex goal. Let's say you tell the AI agent to refactor a legacy database.
Okay.
The agent operates autonomously. It queries the database, reads the result, writes some code, tests the code, finds an error, rewrites the code, and queries it again. It's basically having a conversation with itself.
Looping thousands of times a minute in the background, and every single loop costs tokens.
Exactly. Which explains the mind-bending anecdote Rebecca Bellin included from Vitaly Gordon, the CEO of Pharos AI. He spoke to a CTO who discovered that a single engineer on his team spent $40,000 on tokens in one single month.
40 grand.
Yeah.
Which leaves that CTO with an impossible choice. Do I fire this guy for wasting company money? Or do I clone him because he's using agents to do the work of an entire department?
Well, the data tells a very complicated story about whether you should fire or clone him. Nicholas Arcolano from Jellyfish analyzed this exact dynamic. He found that the heaviest, most aggressive AI users are indeed more productive. They produce about twice the output of developers who barely use AI.
But there's a catch, I assume.
A massive one. Those power users burn through 10 times the amount of tokens to achieve that 2 times productivity boost. Overall, across the industry, per developer token consumption skyrocketed 18.6 times in just 9 months.
10 times the cost for twice the output. That is a terrible ratio. But wait, it gets worse. If an agent is writing twice as much code, is it actually good code?
Pharos AI conducted a massive study of 20,000 developers to answer that. They found that while raw output is absolutely rising, so are the bugs, the errors, and the necessary rewrites.
Because flawed AI code generates errors, and then the AI agent has to burn more tokens reading its own flawed code to troubleshoot the errors it just created. It's a localized, infinite loop of spending.
Spot on. That vicious cycle is exactly why Arcolano offers a highly actionable piece of strategic advice for anyone listening who manages a team.
Let's hear it.
The smartest return on investment does not come from pushing your heavy AI users to use even more tools. It comes from moving the broad middle of your workforce, the people who are hesitant or only using AI occasionally, from low usage to moderate usage.
Elevating the middle.
Exactly. That is where you find the actual efficiency sweet spot, not in letting your power users run wild.
Okay, so if the ROI is this difficult to pinpoint, companies are desperately trying to at least audit their bills to figure out where the money's going. But tracking AI spend is completely different from tracking regular cloud spend, isn't it? If a company already uses AWS or Google Cloud, why can't they just use their existing accounting dashboards to track the tokens?
It comes down to a matter of sheer incomprehensible scale. J.R. Stormont from the FinOps Foundation explained this brilliantly in the TechCrunch piece. He points out that tracking regular cloud costs like servers and storage is a data problem measured in hundreds of millions of rows a month.
And token tracking.
Tracking AI token costs is a trillions of rows a month problem. The volume of data points is so dense that traditional accounting spreadsheets and dashboards literally shatter under the weight of it.
We need an ELI 5 for this. I explain it like I'm 5 comparison. Think of standard cloud computing like renting an apartment. You pay a flat, predictable fee per month based on the square footage you use. Maybe you pay a little extra if you leave the lights on. Token tracking is like paying for that apartment based on how many breaths you take while inside of it. You have to measure every single micro input and output.
That captures the complexity perfectly. And because the existing tools can't handle the tracking of every breath, we are seeing total chaos in the billing departments. Chris Reed from Priceline noted that his background is in telecom expense management. He lived through the early days of cell phone billing, the early days of cloud billing, and now AI.
And whenever there is a new complex billing system that nobody understands, it is essentially the Wild West for billing errors. Vendors make mistakes, and companies don't have the tools to catch them.
Priceline is already seeing major discrepancies between what their internal usage data shows and what the AI vendors are actually billing them for. It's nearly impossible to dispute a bill when your own tracking tools keep crashing.
But naturally, wherever there is corporate chaos, a massive new market is born to solve it. Rebecca Bellin outlines this whole new ecosystem of startups rushing in to fix the problem. You have companies like Payeye, which focuses purely on tracking and optimizing these complex token investments.
Yeah, and you have a startup called Paid, which is attempting a totally new model. They are trying to bill based on actual value delivered rather than simple API usage. And then established monitoring giants like Datadog, New Relic, Ramp, and AWS are frantically scrambling to build token-level observability into their existing platforms.
What's particularly fascinating in Rebecca Bellin's reporting is the emergence of a brand new app layer specifically designed to mitigate these costs automatically. Take a startup called Factory, for example. They have created what is known as a model router.
Right. Normally, a developer hooks their application up to the smartest, most expensive model available, say Claude Opus. Every single query goes to Opus, whether it's a complex architectural problem or just a request to format a date string.
So how does the router change that?
Factory's model router intercepts the query before it hits the AI. It analyzes the complexity of the prompt. If it's a simple task, the router automatically punts the query down to a much cheaper, faster model, like Claude Sonnet or Haiku.
So it acts like a triage nurse. It downgrades a prompt from a premium model that costs $15 a million tokens down to a basic model that costs 25 cents a million tokens without the user ever noticing the difference.
Exactly. Saving a few pennies per prompt doesn't sound like much, but when you are processing billions of prompts a month, that adds up to millions of dollars in saved revenue. It is entirely automated cost saving.
But this creates a new problem. We now have over 180 different vendors rushing in to sell these digital pickaxes during the token gold rush. And without standardization, every vendor is speaking a different language.
Which is why the Linux Foundation is stepping in. Rebecca Bellin reports they're launching a new standards body in July called the Tokenomics Foundation. Their explicit goal is to do for AI what FinOps did for cloud spend a decade ago.
They want to define standardized universal metrics, like cost per intelligence and tokens per watt, right?
Yes, because the industry desperately needs that universal dictionary. Nishant Gupta, a senior leader at Salesforce, pointed out that token economics are fundamentally more abstract and opaque than anything the tech industry has managed before.
It requires entirely new operational muscles.
Exactly. Right now, a token from OpenAI doesn't necessarily equal a token from Anthropic or Google. It's an apples to oranges comparison that makes cross-platform budgeting nearly impossible.
I understand the need for the Tokenomics Foundation, but let's do a harsh reality check here. Goldman Sachs recently published a projection stating that global token usage will multiply by 24 times by the year 2030. 24 times.
It's staggering.
The Tokenomics Foundation's first standardized deliverables are still months, maybe years away, but companies are bleeding cash right now, today.
The painful truth is that we are building the airplane while we are currently in a nosedive. Filey Gordon gave what I think is the most brilliant summary in Rebecca Bellin's entire article. He said, maybe we created a steam engine, but we still haven't figured out the assembly line.
Wow, that's incredibly accurate.
The raw power is undeniable, and the potential is massive, but the basic infrastructure required to manage it efficiently, safely, and economically, it simply doesn't exist yet.
Which leaves us with a fascinating and maybe a little terrifying thought to ponder as we wrap up. If global token usage really is going to multiply 24 times in the next 4 years, will the ultimate winners of the AI revolution actually be the tech giants with the smartest, most creative models?
Or will the real winners simply be the companies with the most ruthless, mathematically precise AI accountants?
Thank you for listening to the AI for Career Success podcast from Curt Robbins, where we help you get smarter than your competition. If you enjoy this free content, buy us a coffee or hire us to coach you and your employees in AI.